Hi, this is Richard Fields with this week's Report from the Fields. Hopefully, this won't be the last report from the fields. I say that because in my 77-year lifetime, I have never seen humanity this close to World War III. And a nuclear World War III could conceivably mean the end of the human race itself. I don't remember seeing this many Cold Wars simmering and hot wars escalating simultaneously in my lifetime. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, accusing opposition parties of sympathizing with communist North Korea. The Korean parliament lifted the declaration and police carried out the wishes of parliament. Luckily, President Yoon saw the light and repealed his martial law edict. In the country of Georgia, which used to be part of the Soviet Union, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are staging violent protests against the elected Russia-aligned Georgian Dream Party because the Dream Party is slow-walking its entry of Georgia into the European Union. It appears to be a similar scenario to the 2014 Maidan revolution in Ukraine, which overthrew the elected Russia-aligned government in favor of a government interested in joining NATO. The Maidan revolution was also run by NGOs financed in part by the CIA. We are now seeing what that resulted in. In the Middle East, Israel is conducting a very hot war against Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Both are backed and supplied with arms by Iran. Meanwhile, the Houthis, also backed by Iran, operating out of Yemen, are effectively shutting down shipping in the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. The U.S. Biden administration cannot seem to figure out which side it's on. It's simultaneously supplying Israel with arms and telling them to be nicer to the civilians in Gaza and Lebanon. It seems not to have even considered not taking a side. In the same neighborhood, a hot war continues between the government and rebels in Sudan, and rebels in Syria have captured Aleppo, the largest city in Syria. Syria is allied with Russia. All this is mostly background noise to what is happening in Ukraine. So far, I mentioned the Maidan Revolution. That's when the U.S. reneged on its promise not to invite Ukraine to join NATO. Ukraine and Georgia border Russia, so fomenting a coup so we could invite them to join NATO, a military alliance between Western European countries and the U.S., is akin to the Soviets putting nuclear missiles in Cuba back in the 60s. We put an end to that. Russia is putting an end to Ukraine being in NATO. In the final days of the Biden administration, or given Biden's compromised mental faculties, his advisors are dramatically escalating the war in Ukraine. We supplied ATACMS missiles to Ukraine, capable of penetrating 190 miles into Russia. They were used. We gave them landmines and cluster bombs. That's in addition to artillery, anti-armor systems, tanks, and drones. The Biden administration is speeding up the delivery of all kinds of weapons in the war because of the fear that the incoming Trump administration will put a stop to it all. In doing so, we are critically depleting our own stores of weapons and ammunition with limited manufacturing facilities to replace them quickly. Putin has responded with his own escalation. He fired a hypersonic Oreshnik missile into Dnipro, causing huge kinetic damage. It is a missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Its Mach 11 speed makes it probably invulnerable to our anti-missile defense systems. Putin threatened to use it against Warsaw, London, Paris, and other NATO capitals if NATO countries keep escalating their assistance to Ukraine. All of those capitals are within 15-20 minutes of Russia by the Mach 11 speed of the Oreshnik. He's also brought in North Korean troops as cannon fodder. Meanwhile, China is biding its time and making bellicose noises about reclaiming sovereignty over Taiwan. We did nothing when they took over Hong Kong. Will we make good on promises to protect Taiwan? If so, our vaunted aircraft carriers may be sitting ducks for hypersonic missile attacks. The smart thing to do would be for the U.S. to recognize its days of empire are over, relinquish our delusions, and become a peaceful nation like, I don't know, Italy, Great Britain, the Netherlands, Germany, Portugal, and all the other empires who are no more. Much better than the possible alternative of nuclear Armageddon. That's this week's report from the fields. I'm Richard Fields. See you again next week.